Here. So I finally got a chance to read The Amazing Spider-Man #1 from Dan Slott. I'm finally doing a review for you guys, and what better way to start than for comics to be doing something like this. So I just want to get right into it. This is the start of the new Marvel Now relaunch, reboot, whatever they're doing now. However, not Civil War, Secret Wars is still continuing at the moment, so hopefully, I got a chance to read through it. Now, for those of you who are unaware of what's going on, this story is set 8 months after the events of Secret Wars, where Peter Parker is now a billionaire. He is essentially the new Tony Stark, and he's going around advertising for cheap Wi-Fi, and also Spider-Man. As he is Spider-Man, he is also his mascot, but people still don't know that, but I'll get right into that. So he pretty much has a Power Rangers morpher, and now he also has a car. And also, I forgot what her name is, Bobby Morse, that's who it is. AKA Mockingbird is essentially his bodyguard and just keeping tabs on him, making sure everything's fine. And one thing I was wondering, if she's a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, then what's the point of the mask? I mean, yeah, Hawkeye was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent while in that cartoon, Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and he wore the costume, but I never really understood why he needed the mask if his identity was public. I don't know, maybe it was just because that, if they just put her in her costume from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., then people are just going to be like, well, who the hell is this character here, until they say her name, so they want to put her in the classic costume. And also, Spider-Man now has a car. Yes, Peter Parker finally drives. And there are some people out there who are like, well, what the hell does what does Spider-Man need a car for? Because now he has money. Now he can drive. So, yeah, now he's taking on a group of villains called the Lords of the Zodiac. And he's chasing after Leo. And there's not a lot of depth into what's going on, Leo, Pisces, etc. Apparently this has been going on for a while. I'm not really too familiar with it. They might have explained it more in past comics. This might be something recent. I'll try to look into that more. But yeah, his car is essentially an Autobot. It really is. So yeah, Spider-Man now has a Power Rangers morpher, and he drives Bumblebee. Well, okay, not Bumblebee, but you know what I mean. He's essentially got a Transformer with him. And also, yeah, I find this comic very fascinating because there is one moment where you think, with Peter Parker doing these kind of decisions, you think, oh, is he doing this? No, it's not always Peter Parker. It's actually Hobie Brown, a.k.a. the Prowler, a.k.a. Miles Morales' uncle. And he's more of a backup Spider-Man. He's a good one. He's not fantastic in any sort of way, but he's learning. His one downside is that he doesn't have a spider sense, and he's learning more how to be the traditional Spider-Man, to have all the quips. I mean, he's good enough. I like where they're going with this, and I like the idea that he's using backup Spider-Man, because now that he's a billionaire, he's got to live with being Peter Parker, he's got to live with Spider-Man, he can't deal with it all. So I like the idea that in case if he's in a situation, then they'll have a backup Spider-Man so that they won't think, obviously, that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And I really do like that aspect of it. I know there are people who are going to be complaining about the fact that it's not Peter Parker underneath the mask. And you're right, it's not Peter Parker underneath the mask. It is Hobie Brown, but also they also deal with that for Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man from the year 2099, but I'll get more into that later on with this episode. So Peter Parker also promotes this thing called the Uncle Ben Foundation, where he's not doing this to be the next Tony Stark or to for fame and fortune, but he actually does want to make a difference. And he even mentions that, you know, like someone calls him out as a poor man's Tony Stark, and he agrees to that. Like, yes, he is a poor Tony Stark. And he even says one of my favorite things is that, you know, we live in a world where superheroes save the world every day. And that we need to stop saving the world and try to build a world worth saving. Because they have already saved the world many times. So if you're going to save it, make it a world that is worth saving. I think that's an incredibly smart move. I feel like, you know, Dan Slott knows what he's doing, and, you know, there are some, you know, haters for Superior Spider-Man. I'm one of the people that actually do like Superior Spider-Man. Dan Slott, to me, he's kind of like the Phil Lord and Chris Miller when it comes to comic book writing. Like, he'll take a concept that sounds stupid, but as soon as you read it on paper, then, like, for instance, when Phil Lord and Chris Miller were doing 21 Jump Street for the first time, and they heard like what the concept of it was going to be, people just lost their minds. They were like, I do not approve of this whatsoever. However, people saw the trailer and the movie, and now it's some people's favorite comedy, or one of their favorite comedies, and was one of the best movies of 2012, followed by a sequel that was actually better. And then they also did the Lego movie, which sounded like a bad idea, but it turned out to be fantastic, which goes to show that I really want now Phil Lord and Chris Miller to write a comic book story so that something like that happens. I mean, I'd be up for it. Other things that happen in this story during Max Modell's wedding. Yes, Max Modell finally gets married. He is the chubby, red-headed guy who was in Superior Spider-Man from the start. Then more from the Zodiac lords show up, and Prowler follows them along, and then Peter talks to one of his colleagues, saying that he knows that, you know, she's been trying to, like, he knows that she has been trying to bring his company to the ground, and that he's not going to stand for that. Like, he's finally taken action. And again, it goes to show that this is the Peter Parker that we love and know, but then again, it's also him maturing. And I feel like that's what fans have been waiting for, is for him to, like, you know, take it to the next step. And I know that there are a lot of people out there who prefer to see Peter Parker in high school, and I do not mind that aspect, and I know that they are going to be using that aspect in the 2017 reboot of Spider-Man from Marvel Studios, directed by John Watts and starring Tom Holland. But I feel like with that and reading this, I feel like they can turn this into a they can turn that aspect into a movie as soon as Tom Holland is in his late 20s, and that he looks more like an adult and not like a high school kid, and how he got to this position. So, and then afterwards, we find out that, you know, Anna, the tutor that was helping Peter Parker, aka Doc Ock, in his head in Superior Spider-Man, that's a whole different story, but I feel like people who watch this, or who will soon be watching this, already know what Superior Spider-Man is, and that Living Brain, the robot, from the beginning of Superior Spider-Man is still with them, and it turns out that part of Dr. Octopus's mind is in the robot, which would make a lot of sense. So now I'm thinking that Doc Ock is going to be they're going to make him like Mecha Dr. Octopus at some point. He's going to try to find some way to get back his body or get like a new mechanical body in order to take on Spider-Man. And I'm looking forward to where that goes. There's also a few other stories, including the first one involves Miguel O'Hara, a.k.a. Spider-Man 2099, where he tries to stop a junkie in a bank, and the junkie shoots a kid, and then Miguel, he takes him on and is on the verge of killing him, but it realizes, it's not even worth it. I can't stand this city or this time period. And then Peter Parker comes along and says, you don't have to do this because I have a job opportunity for you to be a backup Spider-Man, just like Hoagie Brown. And also, the other one we have one for Silk. I'm still learning about Silk, but just learning about this one, I feel like I will be reading this storyline as well. And I believe that she is a more recent character in Marvel Comics, so I want to learn more about her so that I'm more familiar with her, and then I start to get more of an attachment to her. But she is now taking on the Green Goblin gang, and I feel like that's a great way to start it off. But then we realize that she is part of Black Cat gang, and that learning that she is not as rough around the edges as Black Cat wants her to be. So there's probably going to be more to that along the way. Also, we have Spider-Woman, who is pregnant, and she's doing her daily routine. She is taking on Walrus, White Rabbit, and some other villain that they never really bring up. And she's talking to Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, over the phone. And she's coming back from grocery shopping, explaining to her, this pregnancy, it's just a pain in the ass and all. And she walks into her apartment and sees those three enemies, and he's still continuing with the conversation because that's how Spider-Woman works. And then she just lays down and just says, hey, this isn't a big deal. I've been doing crime fighting for a long time. It really shouldn't be that much of a surprise. How she got pregnant and who the father is beyond me. But I feel like, again, this is something that I want to be able to read more in and read ahead of what was going on in the past. Next up is on Web Warriors. Now this is a group of different Spider-Men from different periods, including the British Spider-Man, who is William Braddock, a Hindu Spider-Man named Pavitr Prabhakar, Peter Porker, Spider-Ham, the Peter Parker from the New War Spider-Man, and Spider-Gwen, Gwen Stacy, who I'm reading her comics as well. I just started, and I must say that she is amazing, but that is for another episode. And they are taking on not the Sinister Six, but the Sinister Six Sect. And the members of that, they go by different names, but they are related to Kraven, Lizard, Carnage, Electro, Mysterio, and I want to say Hobgoblin. And, they wrangle them up, they take them on, but one of them actually escapes, and that is the Electro. They go to the time period for 1602, which I'm trying to figure out where that it just says that the year is 1602. I want to say it's New York. I want to say it's London. I know something happened in that time period, and I feel like a complete idiot for not knowing what happened in 1602. So leave a comment in that section for me to learn about a little bit more history. And the last one I wanted to talk about was Miles Morales. Now, his is a little bit more short. He just takes on the Ox, who is a member of the Enforcers, takes him on and sends him to prison along with a few other villains, including White Rabbit, Walrus, and a few others. And it turns out that the prison that they are going to was a former prison that was knocked down, but it's rebuilt and it's put in villains underground, and it's called the Cellar. And the one who is taking over is a villain called Regent. Now, I believe he is someone from Secret Wars as well. I'm still reading into that, but it is keeping me interested. It really is. So with all that said, I would definitely recommend getting this book here. It's not perfect. I am looking for a perfect one. I know I'm going to find a 10 out of 10 somewhere, but I don't know if this is going to be the one here. So the final verdict for Amazing Spider-Man #1 is a solid 8.5 out of 10. I will be doing number ratings for comics and video games, and I will be doing letter gradings for movies and TV shows. So if you are a huge Spider-Man fan, then I would recommend getting this. If you're like a small, average Spider-Man fan, but you're curious, I would either say pick it up, or just, if you're at Newbury Comics or your local comic book store, just pick it up, read it for a while, and if it's for you, buy it. If not, just put it back on the shelf if it's not your thing. Well, that's it for today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button right over there. It really helps me. Until then, this is just Dan saying, "Flee y'all."